So today we're going to talk about a flower, a really beautiful flower actually, one that for a lot of people is the very symbol of summer. But this flower, it's also an invader, an outlaw, and it actually uncovers this huge conflict in how we think about nature itself. Okay, so this is the garden lupin. In places like Norway, these things are everywhere. They're iconic. When people see them, they think beautiful, they think traditional, they think long, warm summer days. It was even planted along roadsides on purpose to help stabilize the soil. It just feels like it's always been there. But, and here's the twist, that same beloved flower is officially on the alien species list. For ecologists, this isn't some pretty symbol. It's a major threat. It's an invader that just steamrolls the native plants, it changes the very chemistry of the soil, and it really damages biodiversity. And that gets us right to the heart of the matter today. How can one little flower be so loved and so loathed at the exact same time? And this isn't just about the lupin. It's about a really fundamental conflict in how we see and manage the entire world around us. To really get this, we've got to unpack a core idea in conservation. This simple story of native versus alien. It's a really powerful idea, but as we're about to see, it might just be an outdated one. So this is the classic framework. It's a neat and tidy binary. On one side, you have native species. They're good, they belong, they're natural. And on the other side, you've got alien or invasive species. They're bad, they're out of place, and they're only here because of us, because of human culture. It's a super simple good versus evil story, right? The thing is, in the world we live in now, that clear line, it's gotten really blurry. We are living in a time of absolutely unprecedented global change. And to get it, we really need to zoom out and look at the bigger picture. And you have to understand, all of this is happening against the backdrop of a staggering biodiversity crisis. A huge 2019 report found that nature is declining at a rate we've never seen before in human history. We're talking about 1 million species facing extinction. Some people are even calling it the sixth extinction. It's a massive deal. So what's causing all this? Well, starting around the 1950s, pretty much every single measure of human impact, from population growth and GDP to fertilizer use and carbon emissions, just went into total overdrive. Scientists have a name for this. They call it the Great Acceleration. And this new era we're in has a name too, the Anthropocene. It's a time where human activity has become the main force shaping the entire planet. So in the Anthropocene, this idea of a pristine nature, a place totally untouched by us, it's basically a myth. The lines are permanently blurred. Nature and humanity are totally hybridized now. There's this fantastic Norwegian word that just perfectly captures this new reality. Hagromling. It literally means garden escapee. It describes a plant that jumps the fence, that leaves the cultivated garden, our cultural space, and heads out into the supposedly wild landscape. It's the perfect metaphor for our hybridized world. Okay, so how does this actually play out in the real world? Let's dive into 2 specific case studies that show just how complicated these conflicts over values can really get. All right, first up, our friend the lupin. It's the perfect example of this dilemma. To an ecologist, it's a pest, plain and simple. It's blacklisted because it creates these huge monocultures and harms biodiversity. But to the public, it's a pet. It's a cherished part of their cultural landscape tied to all these great memories of summer. And you see the exact same thing with the Sitka spruce. After World War II, it was planted all over coastal Norway as a product. It grows fast, it gives us timber, and hey, it even captures carbon. But a lot of people now see it as a total pest. They even call it pøbelgrønn, or hooligan spruce, because it creates these dark, sterile forests, it blocks scenic views, and it just spreads like a weed. So you've got these 2 clear-cut cases of conflict, right? The ecological damage is really well documented, which leads to a super important question. If the science is so clear, why on earth don't people just get rid of these species? Well, the answer reveals a huge misunderstanding of how we, as humans, actually make decisions. Well, there's this old way of thinking in environmental management. It's called the knowledge deficit model. It's basically this idea that the public is just uninformed. If we just give them the facts, the data, the reports, they'll logically arrive at the correct scientific conclusion. But here's the thing. Study after study shows that this is just not true.
People often know a species is invasive. They totally get the ecological facts, but they actively choose to keep it in their gardens and landscapes anyway.
And why is that? It's because we're human. We don't make decisions based only on scientific facts. We weigh those facts against all these other deeply held social values. We might keep a plant because it's beautiful, or it reminds us of our childhood, or for really practical reasons like it provides great shade or privacy. These values are just as real and just as valid to people as any ecological data.
So what all this means is that managing our landscapes in the Anthropocene cannot be some top-down, science-only approach. It just won't work. We need a totally new way of thinking. Really, the key insight here is that effective management has to become a negotiation. It's not about choosing facts over values or values over facts. It's about finding a path forward that acknowledges both are totally legitimate parts of the conversation.
Okay, so what does this new approach actually look like? Well, first, we have to acknowledge that social values, things like beauty and tradition, are real and incredibly powerful. Second, we need to go beyond just collecting data and really try to understand the cultural reasons why people make the choices they do. And this means using things like citizen science, not just to count species, but to really understand our social practices. And finally, once we have that deeper understanding, we can start to negotiate and co-create solutions that respect both the ecological health of the landscape and the cultural meanings people attach to it.
And this brings it all back to you. The next time you're out for a walk, just take a good look at the plants, the trees, the way the land is laid out around you, and ask yourself, what truly belongs here? And, as we've seen today, the even bigger, more important question is, who gets to decide?